processes. And would like to hear from you what you have seen and what more we need to do. In my earlier briefing, I said that the technology actually optimally performed, generally speaking. We're really happy nationwide. This is the first deployment in a major national election. And the technology has given a good account of itself. Yes, we have lost ballot boxes here and there, but it appears that the target of surgery is now the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS. We will continue to protect the process and will continue to proceed courageously to ensure that we conclude this in a very free, fair, and credible manner. We are willing to listen to your comments and take suggestions and observations. But as I said, we are in the middle of the election. So we'll take a maximum of 3 interventions because we have to go back to the situation room and to continue to monitor the situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman, INEC. Please, if you want to ask any question, maybe make your observations or make any comment, kindly indicate. The mic will be brought to you.
Good evening, Chairman. My name is Harry Awurumibe. I report for Prompt News, online newspapers. Mine is, you mentioned when you were briefing us that beavers, from the information you have gathered across the nation, have performed optimally. But then the bad guys are targeting beavers. And knowing now, and you've met with the chiefs of security. Now counting has started, and those beavers are going to be brought to racks. And the bad guys, especially in Lagos, and I'm from Imo State, or Olo or so, they're gonna target the beavers and hijack them. What are you doing about that?
Good evening, the chairman. Good evening, colleagues. I am Princess Ekwi Ajide of the Anambra Broadcasting Service. Sir, I want to know what will happen to the results that will emanate from Urokwe Primary School and Umwezilibu Hall or Zobolo, where the ad hoc workers did not come, but voters volunteered and started the work. So incidentally, in some places, they voted, they did the accreditation and waited for some hours before they started voting. So what will be the outcome of the result from that place? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chairman. My name is Ogochukwu Okorokwa, and I report for Radio Nigeria. A colleague of mine that went to vote at Tungamaje FCT, Health Center Polling Unit, said that out of the 5 polling units, that thugs came and made away ballot boxes belonging to 007 and 014. He now said that the people now mobilized and started beating them before the police came, dispersed the people, and later now went out again with the polling unit, ballot boxes and the ad hoc staff. So for people that were supposed to vote at 007 and 014, voting ended for them. So she's now asking, will there be another opportunity for them to vote, or is that the end of the voting experience for them? Thank you.
Thank you. Please
Sorry, just
allow
follow up, sir.
Honorable Chairman to answer those questions, please.
Okay,
Please.
sorry, I crave your indulgence. I know that there are many, many people who have many, many good questions to ask and suggestions to make. But we are in the middle of an election. And we have to go back to our situation room. That's why we have limited the interventions to 3. I'm sure there will be another opportunity for us to respond, to hear from Nigerians. After all, in our situation room, we have the ICCC, the INEC Citizens, and through our social media handles, you can still contact us live and direct, and we will be able to respond to the issues you have raised. And so many Nigerians have been responding and drawing our attention to situations which we have in turn also been responding. So I crave your indulgence. I'll respond to these 3 quick interventions. Then we go back to our situation room. The first one is the security of the beavers, particularly now that we are going to the next stage. At the polling units, remember, after the ballot papers have been sorted out and counted, and the result sheets duly signed by the presiding officers and the agents of political parties, will snap the picture of that result sheet and upload it on the portal. So the question is, what happens? This is partly why I said in my opening statement that we met with the security chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, the National Security Advisor, and the Commandant General of the Security and Civil Defense. Yes, people are targeting the beavers. But remember also, in our planning for the election, we have made contingency arrangement. In none of these areas where the beavers were targeted was election not held as a result of the absence of the beavers. The highest number came, as I said, from Safana local government area of Katsina State. And as I said earlier in my first briefing, the police, working with the commission, have arrested the hoodlums and recovered 3 out of the 6 beavers, and the manhunt is ongoing. So we have taken sufficient measures to make sure that we protect the beavers' machines. Remember, we will use the same machines in the next 2 weeks for the governorship and state assembly elections. So we're not joking with this situation at all. It's critical to the conduct of credible elections. Princess from the Anambra Broadcasting Service, results emanating from a primary school where voters volunteered to conduct the election. I know that the Commission appreciates the work of volunteers. That's why we rely on ad hoc staff or temporary staff. But these are staff engaged by the Commission, not staff who engage themselves on behalf of the Commission as good Samaritans. So I'm not aware of the specific details of this situation you described in Anambra, but as soon as we go back to the situation, I will place a call to our resident electoral commissioner in Anambra State. So we'll find a way of dealing with this situation. Finally, the issue of Tungamaji, raised by our sister from Radio Nigeria, that thugs made away with some of the election materials before voting could be concluded. So are we now going to resume voting in these locations again? So what we'll do immediately after this meeting is to call our resident electoral commissioner for the Federal Capital Territory and find out exactly what the situation is. Surely, if there are still voters on the queue at Tungamaji, what I have described earlier will apply to that location as well. Anybody who was on the queue before 2:30 will be allowed to vote, even if voting was well beyond the official closing hours of the polling. So we'll find out as soon as we leave this place. So once again, I thank you and I thank Nigerians for their understanding and patience. We are making really very, very steady progress. And and will continue to ensure that nothing truncates our democracy or truncates the will of the Nigerian people. Our allegiance is to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and our commitment is to the Nigerian people. I thank you very much. But before we close, in case there is need to issue another statement again, we will at short notice inform the media because they are here. But as a matter of course, I would like to invite you at midday tomorrow for the official opening of the National Collation Center for the 2023 general elections. We hope later tomorrow we expect to have some of the results of the election coming from the states, particularly for the presidential election. So the situation room, the collation center for the presidential election will be opened at midday tomorrow, Sunday, the 26th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu there, giving us some narratives on how the elections have gone so far. Talks about attacks on INEC facility in Goza, loss of beavers in places like Delta, some parts of Katsina, Anambra, and he says there are some contingency on the loss of those items. He also talks about issues in election commencement in Kebbi, Imo, and of course in Abia, and of course some skirmishes in Lagos, Okota, Mafoluku, Legushi, and of course some parts of Oshodi. So North talks about contingent arrangement, and that the election is on a very steady process, using his exact words. And we have Liberals still with us. Yeah. How does that instill confidence on the electorate so far? Yes, problems here and there, but we're still where we are.
Yeah, I think briefings like these are good to at least, bring people up to speed of what is happening, and also to show that INEC is aware of most of these happenings. But that also, had not answered quite a lot of questions. It raised more questions than answer. INEC is aware of the situation happening in Mafoluku, Oshodi, Isolo, as he said, the Elegushi area that yes, normalcy had returned and voting had commenced, but I don't know how true that statement is. So why these areas? I will crave the indulgence of INEC really. With what had happened, is need for them to appraise the number of registered voters in this area and possibly give them an opportunity at a shot at the ballot again, because these people might likely be disenfranchised for no fault of theirs, not because they were not ready to come vote, and because of skirmishes here and there, despite the briefing of the security agencies. But you find even while we're here, we're receiving a complaint from Cold Street and Co. that security attention is required in those areas, as there are thugs attacking voters. So in these areas, we shouldn't allow the thugs, the beaver snatchers, to have their way always. There's need for INEC at the end of the process today to appraise all of the areas where you have challenges, and if it is much, there's need for them to visit the provisions of the Act, like we have identified, and give opportunity to these places to, redo the process. That will also go a long way in imposing confidence in the people. That yes, INEC heard their cries, and so INEC had given them opportunity, to do it again. But if you just hear their cry and then you're looking through the process, and at the end of the day, nothing is done, you just foreclose the issue like that without giving them a foreclosure. It's kind of also discourages people, to have faith in the process, and also, you just lost hope completely. That look, why can't we just do one thing right for once. I think INEC should look at all of those, in appraising, the entire process at the end of the day. And then there was something instructive that he said. I really didn't quite get it. The Igwebe in Edo State, where elections had been countermanned, and that I don't know whether it's the presidential election or the parliamentary election in those areas, because he said the election would take place on the 11th alongside the other one. So if it is the presidential election in those areas, that means we have a long time waiting for the presidential election result. But if it is the parliamentary election, then we should expect presidential election result, to come in as soon as possible.
All right, so you also mentioned that elections will take place tomorrow in Bayelsa State. Some of those places that elections did not take place today. But let's bring in Jack as the political think tank talking about CDD, impressing on INEC to extend this voting period. Why is the CDD insisting and impressing on INEC to extend this voting period? Talk to us. Impressing on INEC to extend this voting period.
Okay, yeah. So that was contained in a preliminary press briefing that INEC should ensure that every citizen that is out there to vote, that is on the queue before 2:30, should be allowed to vote, no matter how long that takes. So citizens are definitely going to be ensure that they exercise their franchise. So just like the INEC chairman said, that in those places where elections are moved to tomorrow, like in Bayelsa, for instance, citizens are going to vote, and we also stated that categorically in our press brief that provision should also be adhered to. Yeah, but okay, that's that.
All right, Jack, we'll come back to you, but we have Benjamin Warrior from Ebonyi State reporting for us there, rather. Benjamin, what can you tell us about the situation where you are?
Yeah, the area is very calm. Election across the polling unit were peaceful, credible. The INEC officials started distributing the materials as early as 7 o'clock this morning. And of course, the voters turnout is started.
Okay, Benjamin, what can you tell us about the security scenario where you are? Were there any skirmishes, and was there enough personnel on ground to make sure things go smooth?
Absolutely, there is high security. Even as we are coming back from monitoring, it was a tug of war. The security men, we are very good, they were serious, everywhere was calm and peaceful. It was only one local government, Atiku, local government, that we heard that some people were kidnapped, but we also learned that security people security action and the victims were all rescued. So far so good. The atmosphere is very calm. Security people we are on their best that everywhere is peaceful.
All right, Benjamin, we want to say thank you very much for your time. Let's come straight to the studio here. Let's still look at this. Professor Mahmoud actually spoke, and he highlighted the fact that, like our reporters have actually mentioned, Okota, Mafoluku, Oshodi. And actually, although he noted that in Ikate, voting has begun.
Yes. I did get some feedback too that in Elegushi, Ikate, voting has started and they're clamoring for people to come back and exercise their rights to vote. And I'm happy he mentioned that because we do deserve free and fair elections. That's a phrase we've been throwing around for so many years. Free and fair, but if it's not ensured that...
There is definitely a need for voting to go on into the night, and a lot of civil society organizations had sounded an alarm that INEC might need to extend the voting timelines in certain parts of the country because of the logistical issues that INEC officials had in many cases, and in other cases, some of these incidents that we're seeing play out in various flashpoints across the country. So I think, just along the lines of what I said earlier in the day, we would expect that voting will continue in many parts of the country into the wee hours of the night, and in some parts of the country, like Inaugural, we had seen reported earlier today that voting wasn't happening in many parts of Inaugural at all, where observers were reporting on the field, and now. With the words of the INEC chairman, quite frankly, I would say.
Around time, just coming from Surulere some moments back, and at the various polling units that were visited, they have already completed the counting of ballots with the results transmitted already. But here in Obalende, you can see this unit has it's a very populous unit with so many voters, and that is why you see counting of ballots still going on here, and people are still, they are counting the ballots with the electoral officer here. You can see some of them using their electronic devices to record the proceedings, while many are just, following them by counting. Okay, you can see what is happening on the camera there. So a moment ago, I was at Surulere, where I visited a polling unit at the Falfolu Junction in Surulere, and the report we got there that took us there was that some thugs came in a minibus to create commotion at that polling unit, and we saw 2 empty shells of bullets at that polling unit because a stampede was created and people ran away. And at the end of the day, we were told that the thugs, went away with the ballot box of the presidential election, leaving behind the ballot boxes of the senatorial election and the House of Rep election. So as it is right now, many people were injured in that polling unit, and were told that they are nursing their injuries in their respective homes as we speak at the moment.
All right, okay, Oba, you've mentioned this as it stands right now. A lot of people, what's the security presence in Obalende? Because usually it's one of those flashpoints a lot of people were expecting things to unravel in. What's the security situation there?
Yes, the security men are at alert. You can see them. I don't know if the camera can see them. You can see their truck. They are at alert, watching the proceedings of the election here. They are just some meters away from the point where the ballot is being counted. Everything is in order in Obalende. We have not heard of any clash or any violence whatsoever across Obalende. I agree with you that Obalende is one of the flashpoints when, elections take place. But today, I have not heard or I have not seen anywhere where there is any clash or any violence in Obalende right now. I want to give kudos to the military men, the police officers, and other uniformed men on duty. They have comported themselves so very professionally in this election. And in many places that I visited, they are practically on holiday because there was nothing really to tend to, except perhaps in Ikate, Elegushi, which I visited some hours back at one of the polling units in that area. We were told that some thugs also invaded them, destroying election materials, ballot papers, tables, the cubicles, and what have you. There we saw a detachment of military men with an armored tank. We also saw several policemen and other police officers in that place, but they were able to restore peace and orderliness in that environment before we left the place. So practically on the overall, policemen and other uniformed men in places that I visited have been on holiday, so to say.
Very good, Oba. Now, in densely populated areas such as the scenario behind you, how would you say the logistics is like? Is it enough in terms of the beavers machine and, of course, other materials as well, and in other places you've been to?
I think there's an issue with INEC logistics in this election in some of the places that we went to. In Lekki, for an instance, where the popular musician turned politician voted, that's Banky W. Election did not start there until around 19 minutes past 12. You know, the election was supposed to start at 8:30, but it never started in that place until around 19 minutes past 12. We have about 3 to 4 polling units on that spot. So if you look at that, it's like it's a minus for INEC in terms of logistics provision for the election. We have not had too much of the beavers failing in this election, but we have had cases of elections starting quite behind schedule. We also got to a place in Victoria Island as at maybe 11:30, between 11:30 and 12. The election materials had not arrived at particular polling unit. So beyond the lateness of election materials getting to polling units, the beavers machines and other things, worked very well in places that I saw, that I visited.
All right, many thanks to you, Deoye, our rights correspondent, for bringing us the latest from Obalende. Now, moving on to Oyo State, where the governor, Seyi Makinde, has cast his vote at his Ward 11, Unit 1 polling unit along the Iwo Road axis of Ibadan, the state capital. Now, in a chat with Arise News, Governor Makinde describes the election as seamless, while hoping that the will of voters would prevail. Arise correspondent Olutayo Famous Call has more.
The late arrival of INEC election materials and personnel in parts of the state capital did not stop prospective voters from exercising their rights as they patiently waited to vote. Security agents also mounted strategic points in a bid to forestall any breakdown of law and order, and so as to increase confidence in voters.
Let us all obey the law. The rules are there, let's follow it. And we all have reason to say, thank God, Oyo State remain peaceful.
Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde arrived at his Ward 11, Unit 1 polling unit, where he met many persons yet to vote as at 10 a.m., but called for patience. After eventually voted, the governor described the voting as similar.
7 years that the beavers they brought is not working. Many of the people are not voting. Out of 100 voters, let's say 100, 90 are not accredited. Only 10. You saw only one person that were accredited.
We're hearing from our correspondent Olu.
Ballot, while others took to the streets to play football, saying that despite the initial itches experienced at the commencement of the voting, the biometric verification and accreditation system, BVAS, was largely effective.
I think so far it looks quite peaceful, and everything is progressing well. From where I've been to and where I casted my votes, it's obvious that INEC were there on time, and most people actually casted their votes quite early.
The only reason that I see is that maybe the current situation of our country, I mean the cashless policy that caused everything. That is first. Secondly, the INEC official, they did not come early today. So I think they just arrived now, maybe 30 minutes past.
INEC official are late before they come this morning. Even we are outside before they come, because I've been outside since 7 o'clock. So, and I'll go there to go and take my number. So before anything, I'll go back to go and test my votes.
The expectations from this cross-section of Nigerians is that the winner of the presidential election would help to deliver more dividends of democracy when he is announced by INEC. Olutayo Famous Call, Arise News, Ibadan.
And we're trying to secure the bus.
Yeah.
They were telling Iman, where is the bus? Come.
Where is the other bus?
Iman, come.
Yes, the bus is here. The bus is here. Okay, the bus. Yeah. Okay, so
the buses were here.
We collected the bag. We collected the bag. You collected it.
Yes, we've collected it.
All right. Yes, so you can see it's a volatile area, and this is the situation we are having here. People being disenfranchised, and also some people coming to snatch ballot buses. But luckily, this has been secured, and the people are all happy that it has been secured, and it's back to you in the studios.
Just to say that you should please stay safe. That was what I was saying.
out there as you report on these various unfolding scenarios. We've just got enough time. Mr. Johnson, I know I cut into your answer.
I really still believe that of all the promises made after I've left my wife for more than 2 hours, yet the beavers is still not very functional. I don't want to begin to suspect any foul play, but from the reports I've received from other local governments, it does appear to be the same experience. And then you now wonder why should it be peculiar to Rivers State. I don't want to make any suspicion yet, but I don't think it's quite encouraging. Yeah, my people cannot be disenfranchised. You can see we never had an election where we have this number of crowd. I believe that they will extend the period till 6 p.m. I mean, look at the time now. Voting ought to have started from 8:30 to about 2:30, but we are just starting. So I'm not happy with the preparedness of INEC as regards to the beavers.
Still making the rounds, let's cross over to Kano State, where Benga Shiru joins us. Benga? All right, Benga, let's actually get the latest. The last time we actually spoke to you, processes were slow. How far has it gone right now? Okay.
Has improved. We don't have a military man on the ballots this year. We've seen technology introduced into our system, and an electoral act that allowed ample time for INEC to do its job. Is it perfect? It's not. There are several things and several reports we're getting on the field, and many of those incidents have a systematic pattern of voter suppression, where certain candidates feel like they may be at a disadvantage, and that's what we're seeing on the field. But regardless of that, all of us as Nigerians have to recognize that these are isolated incidents, and it shouldn't be sufficient for us to make this country ungovernable, regardless of what the outcome of the voting is come tomorrow or Monday.
All right, Mr. Lawal. A number of people haven't voted.
Very unpleasant antecedent. It's known as the origin of the inconclusive center in Kano. So you can see the massive deployment of security forces from different security agencies here to ensure that everything is orderly. And live here with us, we have the Commissioner of Kano State, CP Mohammed Yakubu, live with us. Welcome to Arise News.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, how would you rate the security deployments in terms of orderliness of the conduct of this election, and in terms of its peaceful conduct?
The deployment we have is very good. We have a good number of men drawn from not only the police but other security services. They are all here doing their work diligently.
Yeah, but we visited some of these polling centers at Kwakwanso polling center at Madubi local government in the stronghold of the hometown of Kwakwanso, and we saw the crowd control there, which was quite awful in terms of organization, and the security presence was little until we cried out, and before we saw the arrival of security forces there. Could you explain what actually?
Yes, the point you were quite outside. The policemen were doing their duty inside. They were protecting the materials for the election. They couldn't have left them to just be going about outside. In fact, that team was led by an SPO. They were there about 14 of them were there with one SPO. So police presence was was good there, and they were doing the duty we sent them to do.
Yeah, we saw the massive presence of minors, children, obviously, from their look, indiscriminately, unchecked at various polling centers. Couldn't this have been better organized to prevent minors from penetrating, from being part of this voting exercise?
It is very difficult to determine by mere appearance who is a minor or not. Most of the ones you are seeing, maybe their genetic, their growth rate might be impaired. So I don't know. All those that you see, they are those that have been approved by INEC, and I cannot change it.
Okay, thank you, CP Mohammed Yakubu, the Commissioner of Police for Kano State. We wish you and the rest security agents the best of luck as you ensure a peaceful conduct of this exercise. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right.
Back to you.
Go ahead. Bengashiru, thank you very much. Okay, back to you in the studio here. Of course, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu actually spoke, and we'll also be getting Jack's opinion about this. He mentioned some major talking points, one of them being that elections have been postponed in Bayelsa, in 4 wards, 141 polling units in Bayelsa State till tomorrow, 26th. So, and of course, he also mentioned we'll be getting reports about that in Eson North, Eson South, and the Gweben, where it says elections have been postponed till the 11th of March. More clarity will be given. But first of all, we speak about this.
The one for Eson North, South, and Igwebe will not hold tomorrow because, according to the INEC chairman, ballot materials had been destroyed and in some cases snatched. And so they will have to print another ballot papers in those places. Were they destroyed or that? No, political parties' logo were not on the ballot. And so there's need to reprint the ballot so that will give everybody opportunity to be part of the process. Otherwise, that would be, giving room for cancellation of that election.
What does this mean for the electoral process?
So there's needs. If it is the presidential, then that means we'll have to wait a long time for a result to come, because if it is the presidential election in those areas that is postponed till on the 11th, that means you need to conduct elections in those areas for you to add the number of votes from those areas to the number that voted before you determine the actual outcome of the election.
Very good.
But if it is just a parliamentary, then the presidential election result would have been announced, and then the parliamentary election would hold simultaneously with the state parliamentary election and the governorship election in that area. But I need to get clarity, like I said before, I need to get clarity on that. But for the Bayelsa that is holding tomorrow, that means all materials are available, but that for logistic reasons, election could not hold in this polling unit. And so that's why they would, according to in compliance with the provisions of Section 47.3, there's need to hold the election within 24 hours.
All right,
which is, tomorrow.
Libero is very good. Would like to hold your thoughts on that. We have Ozzy Okoli in Ojota, but Okota rather, area of Lagos. Ozzy, you're in Okota now. What more can you tell us?
We are presently at the polling unit of 070. This particular polling unit is experiencing a challenge, and that challenge has to do with uploading the results that have been already acknowledged by the INEC officials here. And if you look around, you see a huge number of people who have vowed that they will not leave this place until the results are uploaded. Luckily, the INEC officials were able to upload the results of the House of Senate and then representatives, that's the National Assembly results. But the result for the presidential candidates yet to be uploaded, and they have vowed that they will not leave this particular place until it is done. I have some other, 1 or 2 persons here who would like to talk to this discussion here, especially how it all started. So you tell us your name.
Okay, my name is Atiku Okorom, one of the registered voters for this polling unit, which is 070 Otubajo Akim/Ezemebo Drive Junction. We started right on time. Our NEC officials showed up. I was the first person to cast my vote. And before 2, we were all done. And of course, to keep in terms with INEC's guidelines, we waited till 2:30 for the results to be counted and then for us to verify that it was okay. And since then, we've been waiting for the upload of the results. Well, we waited a bit, and there were some agitations here and there. People were very upset, angry over the whole situation. And after we had intervened and people had tried to achieve some calm, they were able to upload the National Assembly results. But unfortunately, it is still quite surprising, and we're still asking questions why that should go through and the presidential results are yet to be uploaded. Because those who have cast their votes here have vowed that the officials will not leave this polling unit until the results are uploaded to the site, which is the requirement, and that is what it should be. So, and we're wondering why of all the results, the presidential elections, the results are not being uploaded. So we are asking questions, please, what is going on? You understand? And we are waiting. We are here. We mean business. We are going nowhere. And for the sake of these INEC officials who we are feeling for, we need these sites to come up, to open, and allow them upload these results so we can return back to our homes. We mean for a peaceful and fair election. That's what we stand for. Thank you.
You can see the cheering and the jeering based on the fact that they really meant business staying here to ensure that the results are uploaded. It's no longer the case of accreditation or INEC officials, beavers, malfunctioning or whatever. The problem here now is the uploading of results to INEC server.
Much Ozzy Okoli for the job you've actually done. And coming to you, Jack in Abuja. Jack, of course, we've just heard from Ozzy speaking in Okota, one of the places that Professor Mahmoud actually mentioned as having security challenges. Of course, he mentioned Mafuluku, Oshodi, and Legushi. I want to get your overview because he mentioned quite a lot of states and the security challenges they are encountering. And more importantly, that hoodlums and detractors certainly have been targeting these beavers machines, although RFI says that it's to no avail. But talk to us about these developments we're seeing actually play out.
Yeah, so our sense around the insecurity challenges we face across the country is
Have you voted? I'm just asking. And for those who haven't voted, of course, so long as the line is still open, you can still vote. And Millicent gave us that information the other time. If you have videos, pictures you want to share with us, 2023 verdict at channelstv.com. That's where to send it. It's right there on your screen.
So we're doing something different now. Mr. Lade will be joining us soon at another time. But right now, joining us here is Babajide Musowo, our data specialist.
Thank you, Millicent. We're doing magic this time.
Well, I can see that. Start with the magic of IREV. I'm wondering, because unfortunately, of course, it's too late for me to register, but how far so far? Because many people would expect that by now it's dropping, right?
So IREV was meant to be the magic portal.
Like the one you have here.
IREV was the magic one. We wouldn't say it's not yet the magic one. We're still waiting for the results. And hopefully within the next 60 minutes, we will see the power of the IREV. We'll see the results start coming up. But speaking of results, there's something I'd like to share with you.
Okay.
It's exactly 9 years on this same day in 1964, Millicent. An unknown boxer, Cassius Clay, defeated the heavyweight champion of the world, Sonny Liston. The bookmakers had predicted that Cassius Clay was not going to be able to do it. So to the Ayo, we're going to definitely make history, because the question Nigerians are asking is, will Nigeria see another heavyweight hit the canvas? And whatever scenario you look at it, just as it happened day in 1964 when Muhammad Ali defeated Sonny Liston. A heavyweight champion in Nigeria today will be defeated. Who will it be? Hopefully some of this analysis will give you some insights as to what exactly the results would look like.
I'm certainly looking forward to it. So can we go there?
Surely.
It is similar to what our colleague said earlier about seventh, the number seven and the spiritual meaning.
Okay, so you said we want to start with Abia State, right? So
yes, we could look at all the zones. Let's look at Abia State, one of the 5 states in the southeast. What exactly is going on in Abia? Based on the reports from INEC, 1.9 million people have picked up their PVCs. All of them will be using their PVCs across 4,050 polling units. The challenge is how many of those that have collected PVCs in Abia State will come out to vote. If we look at what happened in 2019, just about 21% of those that picked up their PVCs 4 years ago came out. But let's still look at what is happening in Abia in 2023. Today, where we see, what we understand by the distribution of INEC is most of those that have collected their PVCs, most of the voters in Abia live in Abia South. And so when the results from IREF starts popping out, we want to focus on what exactly is going on in Abia South, especially Ukwa West, Ukwa East, Obingwa, Aba North, Aba South. In Abia State, Abia South, that Abia South zone, across the 3 zones is where the big numbers are, followed by Abia Central. So we're looking at, as the result starts coming in, what is going on in Abia South and in Abia Central. But Millicent, apart from the current situation, we need to ask ourselves, where will all the magic take place? Let's take a look at where the magic took place in 2011.
I was also wondering what's happening in other parts.
Here are the facts. Across all of Abia, in 2011, the PDP won all the local governments in Abia State, all the local governments, scoring more than 1.1 million votes. The ACN then scored less than 5,000 votes. Again, 2011, PDP all the way, all across Abia State. But what then happened in 2015? If we take a look at the trends in 2015, same thing. PDP won all the local governments in Abia. Abia South, Abia North, everywhere was green for PDP in 2015.
Okay, my people, let's start join Arise News to know what's going on there. Okay, let's go there. Arise News will come.
Basically, our expectations from INEC, we always want the very best. I mean, we watched earlier a police officer or a security officer said we cannot detect if those children are underaged or not. We have identification cards. We have varying means of being able to check. But I think to almost every visible adult, we can see that certain ages are beyond, lower than 18 years old.
Okay, Liberals, pick it up from that particular point, because you've been amused about the eligibility of those that actually showed up. The police officer said he cannot detect with the naked eye the ages. They might be having deformities, he says. I would be
shocked if he had said otherwise, because if you remember, in 2015, 2019, there were allegations of underage voting, underage registration, from that part of the country. And the allegation, the answer, the response was that some of them, even from the INEC polling unit staff, is the fact that when you raise these issues, their parents will come and say, yes, they are 18. How do you say he's not 18? So it's, and there's this consistent complaint about underage voting. We seem to accommodate it, and it's also, when you're reporting from that end of the country, you also have to be very careful so as not to, cross the borderline, because little things can trigger unrest in those places. So especially when you have such number of crowd, in some cases, largely uneducated, and so you want to also maintain a certain position. These are some of the issues that Sanusi Lamido complained against, that led to his ouster from the throne. And then I'm bringing me to El-Rufai. El-Rufai has said this ballot, these beavers that were stolen are inconsequential, because at the end of the day, they'll be useless in your hands, whether you snatch them or not. But I agree with you that if those machines are the machines that are specifically designed for those polling units, you would have deprived those voters of the opportunity for with what had happened in the case of Wike's polling unit, we see now that you can have a backup. So if those machines are stolen and there is a backup, then it becomes just useless in the hands of those that have stolen it.
Liberals Oshoma Olatorera Majekudumi Oniru. I'd like to thank you all for joining us in this special coverage of the elections, and of course the viewers and our reporters out there doing justice to Arise News coverage of this momentous occasion. Ani Uilo, and of course
I'm Aaron Akirajola, and our coverage continues as we hand it over to
In 2019, the PDP won all the local governments. In simple terms, it will be easier for the Pope to stop praying than for the PDP to give up Anambra State easily.
Can we say that across for Southeast as well?
And then we need to look at another state in the South. Let's look at what's going on in Enugu. In Enugu today, based on INEC's report, 1.99 million permanent voter cards, and INEC hopes that a lot of those in Enugu will vote across 4,141 polling units. Where are the big numbers from Anambra East? Anambra East is the region, is the zone where you have most of those that have registered. It's the same zone that you have most of those that have picked up their PVCs. We are looking at Nkanu, Enugu North, Enugu South, Enugu, Nkanu. Those are the numbers those that are voting in Enugu are looking out for. But more than these numbers, it is to look at again, will history repeat itself or will the trends change? Let's look at Anambra, Enugu in 2011. In 2011...
I say that this government is favoring him. It's left for him, but it's for myself. Openly, I'm saying that I have suffered a lot.
There are people who can do that to bring Nigeria together. People who can bring this country together. And more especially, we people of the Southeast is supposed to be a mandatory to every sons and daughters of Southeast to come at a man to make sure that we cast our votes, because this is the greatest opportunity to us.
That's why if I have opportunity to serve, I serve the people and not steal their money, because it's by His grace.
I am very optimistic.
Continue to first them. They will consume us. May God never allow that. You are tempting God. God has given you everything that you need. What the hell are you praying for? Child. What the hell? Child. What the hell are you praying for?
ACN came second, less than 2,000 votes. Yep. 2015, APC had a bit more votes. Yep. PDP less votes.
Exactly.
2019, PDP 355,000 votes. APC came second, 54,000 votes. APC still had a margin, so PDP still had a margin in excess of 200,000 votes. Yeah. The question is, what will happen in 2022? However, in 2023, what's going to happen and when the results start coming out? But the trend shows that Enugu East and Enugu North will determine who wins, like it has always done in Enugu, who wins this election. Don't forget.
In that state.
In that state. Okay. In that state. Don't forget, the trend shows one party across all local governments in the last 3 presidential elections. In the South, this is Ebonyi. Let's look at Ebonyi at the moment and how the distribution...
Just a moment, Chide. I was hoping that you get to that cautious claim moment, because obviously there is another player that seems to be playing up a lot more now, right?
There's another player that is playing up more now. But if we look at the trends, the Labour Party in the last election, in all of the Southeast states, the Labour Party scored less than 3,000 votes across the Southeast. Statement of fact. Now the challenge is, will Labour Party be able to wave a magic wand to be able to move from 3,000 votes based on its candidates to hundreds of thousands of votes? That is the challenge. Will that happen? We'll have to wait for the results. We don't know. What we can only do is to look at the situation in Ebonyi today and look at what happened in the past. In the past, sometimes allows us to predict the present, or sometimes history does not repeat itself.
It's interesting that you are only staying on, we are only staying on the southeast for now, with the little time that we have, just about 3-4 minutes now to go.
And I was going to say that ABGA, I mean, where do you see, where does that play?
Yeah.
Does that play any role in this? Do you see any surprises at all?
I'll keep my personal comment, and I'll just focus on the facts. Let's look at the last state in the southeast, Imo. And then we might probably be able to see if ABGA will present some surprises, or the governor of Imo State, being APC, will be able to provide some surprises. And if we keep our attention on Imo, the big numbers will be coming from Imo East, where you have 42% of the voter cards, followed by Imo West, where you have another 40% of the voter cards. In other words, between Imo East, 2.3 million PVCs, 2.3 million PVCs. In the last election, among those that collected PVCs, less than 40% came out on election day 4 years ago. Will we have more than 40% of the 2.2 million that currently hold PVCs? We're not too sure. What we know is the commission has said it is ready for people to come out to vote across 4,720 polling units. How many of those that have picked up their PVCs as at 6 p.m. have voted? We're not sure, but what we're sure about is history will not change. History will not change, the present might change, and if you look at the history of Imo in 2011, it will provide some insights to you. In 2011, PDP not only won Imo, it won across all the local governments. It spared none to competition. ACN then scored second, less than 15,000 votes compared to 1.3 million votes that was declared for the PDP in 2011. What happened in 2015? And if you look at Imo in 2015, you see Idiato South. That is the only local government that APC won. PDP still held on to all the local governments across all the zones, but the APC was able to snatch Idiato South. In all, across Imo State, PDP scored 133,000 votes compared to APC scored 133,000 votes compared to PDP's 559,000 votes. But before we close, let's look at what happened in Imo in 2019. APC had picked another local government, Oru East. Yes, the PDP still won 334,000 votes in the last election compared to APC's 140,000 votes. But what we've seen in the last two presidential elections in Imo is APC gaining ground. Started with Idiato South, moved to Oru East. Will APC be able to grow its market share? Will PDP win any more local governments? Will win back any of these local governments? Or will a new party spring up surprises? Ayo, don't forget, a wise man once said, sometimes what you cannot see is more important than what's in front of you. Millicent.
Wise man. What about those personal comments? We would like to hear them.
No, we'll share that. I'll share that with you because we need to go to the other zones. What exactly happened in history in the Southwest, in the South-South, and across all the northern regions? We surely need to be able to look at history, look at the present situation, and let the voters determine what is likely going to be the results when the result starts coming out.
You have to tell us that Cassius Clay moment, because I'm still waiting to hear it.
Again, Cassius Clay. On this day, 1964, February 25, underrated Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, who no one felt was going to win the election, win the fight, defeated Sonny Liston, predicting a lot of people wrong. Almost everybody had predicted Sonny Liston was going to win. In this election, whatever prediction you make, one thing is for sure, one heavyweight will kick the canvas.
Okay.
Your okay doesn't sound very convincing.
We'll surely be back.
No, it's actually a little concerning, if I can use that term, because it's not what we have seen in quite a while. But we have to thank you very much, Babajide Ogunsanwo, data analyst. Thank you so much. And
we'll be seeing more of him.
We most certainly will be
We've
seeing
only done one of 6 zones. We will have to look at all the zones. And we'll also, as the elections results come in, we need to look at each of the states. A lot of surprises. But again, I'll still be with you to share some other thoughts beyond these facts.
Especially the ones you can't put on air, right?
That's true. We are here throughout the night on, the minute-by-minute update on the general elections. We're going on a short break now.
Yes, we are. And when we return, there is more. Please don't go away. Stay with us for more.
Set to take the African continent and the world by storm. They are giants in every sense of the word, and they will bring entertainment.
And if we do not take the right step and make the right choice, not only will the two continue to fester, they will consume us. May God never allow that. You are tempting God. God has given you everything that you need. What the hell are you praying for? Child. What the hell? Child. What the hell are you praying for? Praying for? Child. God gave you everything. You squandered it. You mess it up, and you are praying to God. You don't have anybody to blame.
Gist 101 TV. Gist 101 TV. Gist 101 TV. Gist 101.
And have a dozen. But the choice is in our hand.
To build a better Nigeria, to move Nigeria from consumption to production.
I don't know what choice you will make out of that too. And don't let us deceive ourselves.
2023.
We have a choice.
2023.
We have a choice. It's whether we make the right choice or we ignore making the right choice. And if we don't make the right choice, we don't blame anybody. We blame ourselves. Symbiotic. Insecurity feeds on poverty. Poverty feeds on insecurity. And don't let anybody deceive you about that. And if we do not take the right step and make the right choice, not only will the two continue to fester, they will consume us. May God never allow that. You are tempting God. God has given you everything that you need. What the hell are you praying for? Child. What the hell? Child. What the hell are you praying for? Praying for? Child. God gave you everything. You squandered it. You mess it up, and you are praying to God. You don't have anybody to blame.
Gist 101 TV. Gist 101 TV. Gist 101 TV. Gist 101 TV.
Step. Well, let's turn attention to our studio in Lagos, where Yori Folare is standing by. I saw you earlier analyzing and also following the early hours of this voting exercise. How is Lagos this hour, particularly after the official voting hours here?
Well, thank you very much, Nifemi. Well, Lagos is, how do I put it? It's chill, to use the words that, the kind of words that people use. And we're about to launch into it ourselves to, find out with our, in-studio experts exactly what the lie of the
Nigeria's capital, Abuja, as we bring you special coverage of Nigeria's 2023 presidential election, arguably the most competitive ballot in this country since the end of military rule. I'm Charles Anyegolu.
And I am Adesua Omoran. And over the next 3 hours, we'll be live with our correspondents across Nigeria, as well as analysts and commentators who will help bring us the highlights of this mammoth electoral event.
And don't let anybody deceive you about that. And if we do not take the right step and make the right choice, not only will the
setting on a hazy Harmattan day here in the Nigerian capital, Abuja. And across the country, darkness is slowly starting to fall on the tens of thousands of polling booths where millions of people have been voting or trying to vote to elect a new president and National Assembly. It's the biggest ballot in Africa and one of the biggest in the world, taking place in a country stricken by insecurity, shortages of cash and fuel, and a restive population. But even in the face of those challenges, millions have turned out eager to help this country find leadership to replace President Buhari, who is stepping down after serving 2 4-year terms.
That's correct, Charles. Most polling units have now closed or will soon close. But there have been lots of reports of late starts, disruptions and disturbances in a number of areas, with many people unable to cast their vote. The success or failure of this election matters not just to Nigerians, but to Africa and the world. So, should we be worried about the way things have turned out today?
I just want to say that other years, INEC is aware that there has not been issue of cashless policy, the issue of movement and all that. It was very easy for people to get to their polling units. But someone like us, I know yesterday many of us couldn't access cash. Now that I came out in my condition to vote, and they are telling me that it's not my voting unit, and I don't even have a cash to move down to where I could vote. I want to say that I could have considered that.
Well, it seems seamless, only that with the news we got that they have delimited the units, we thought we were going to have less people at this polling unit, but surprisingly we still have a place that is crowded. However, there are other units around that are vacant, there are no people there. We just thought that subsequently INEC may be able to do better by trying to actualize the number of people who are supposed to vote in every unit and to reduce all this stress.
And unfortunately today it has not been the way we expected it to be. Number one, the agents and the staff from INEC and the corpers they've been disorganized, no training, they've been disorganized. Number two, the ink for the thumb printing, there is no ink. I came here with about 6 pens, I've used 3. I decided I poured the ink from my pen inside that thumb printing. That's what people have been using here. If not for the fact that I came with pen, I think probably would have stopped voting, which is not proper.
A lot of very frustrated people there.
I can't keep count of the number of incidences we've recorded from our correspondents across the country today, Charles.
It's quite extraordinary, really, but that's something we're going to talk about more, all of that in a moment. But first, since 1999, Nigeria has been dominated for the most part by 2 parties. the ruling All Progressives Congress, or APC, whose presidential candidate is Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is 70 years old and who was the former governor of Lagos State, and the People's Democratic Party, or PDP, whose candidate is 76-year-old Atiku Abubakar, a former vice president who's making his 6th run for president. And in amongst these septuagenarians is a third candidate, a mere stripling at 61, Peter Obi, standing as the Labour Party's candidate. And he's been campaigning strongly amongst young people. And there's a fourth candidate, Rabiu Kwankwaso of the New Nigeria People's Party, or NNPP, regarded by some as a disruptor of this three-horse race. Here they are speaking to Arise News earlier today.
People, that is the only means whereby they directed me to a classroom where I was always voting. And they tried to get my name, they couldn't get it there. And I was directed to the next point. And I was lucky, I went there and voted successfully. So I'm so happy about that. My only worry was that the election here started after 11. And it's rightly pointed out, we have thousands of people there. And not only that, immediately I finished voting, the machine went bad. And now they are struggling to repair it. And only God knows when it will be repaired. And even if it is repaired, because of the time it takes for one person to vote, from my personal experience, it will take a lot of time, to the extent that I hope the staff will be patient enough to ensure that everybody votes in that particular place. And maybe this is not an isolated case. Maybe it's a similar thing elsewhere. And one other problem that we have in the NNPP is that NNPP is not written on the ballot paper. It's only the logo, and the logo was not looking good. You cannot understand anything. And that's why in some places they are saying, especially in Kano, when they go, they tell them to ask for Kwankwaso's party, or here we call it in Hausa, a party logo, fruits.
So is that peculiar to the NNPP, or just a poor delivery by INEC? How would you describe this?
I think we only know ourselves. I don't know of others. PDP, APC have been there for a long time. They are participating. They perfected. And PDP is written, APC is written, but ours, NNPP, is not written. So I want to appeal to our supporters, wherever they are in this country, to be directing our voters, to tell them that, look, you go and ask, because many people are not used to crowd, especially women who are always in Pada.
Presidential candidate of the NNPP, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, with our correspondent Benga Ashiru earlier today. Well, for a situation report on how the election process is going in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, let's turn to Arise News correspondent Chinaza Samuel. Chinaza, thank you so much for being on the ground there. Where exactly are you and what's happening there?
Okay. Hi, Adesua. I'm standing in polling unit 007. It's just by the National Library of Nigeria. It's one of the biggest polling units in this area, where voting is still ongoing. Just behind me here, you see some voters still on the queue waiting to cast their vote. Now, that's as opposed to what the INEC chairman told us, that voting will end by 3. And of course, I inquired to find out why voting is still going at this time, when sorting and counting should be ongoing. But of course, they explained to me that the INEC officials arrived this polling unit late, and they insist that no one will be disenfranchised. But for the persons who were able to vote, the process was smooth. I'm going to be talking to some of them, and they'll share with us what their voting experience is like. Okay, so for our viewers who are watching, can you tell us what the voting experience is like for you?
Well, it went smooth. There is no problem. We coordinated ourselves. Everything went smooth.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Were there any case of vote buying or selling in this area?
No. We have not. It's very peacefully. We coordinate ourselves, and everyone is eye of everybody. Everyone is eye of everybody. So we coordinate ourselves. There's nothing like that.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have someone else who would also share his experience with us. Good evening, sir. Could you share your voting experience in this polling unit with us?
In this polling unit, it is peaceful. Okay. There's no violence. There's no ballot snatching. So I voted early in the morning, but I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for the vote to be counted so that I know that I've done it.
Okay.
So we're taking our country by force. By fire, by force. We're taking it back.
We also have persons who are yet to vote, and they'll be sharing their experience as well. Yes. Okay. So let's have your experience. You're yet to cast your vote.
Yes, I am.
What are your expectations?
Well, I hope for a new Nigeria, and our polling vote went well, except for some issues with the distribution. We are quite many in here, so I helped in arranging the people. We had to do a list, and I'm expecting good things. I'm going to be last on the list, and we have about 10 more people who should be done. But just to advise INEC, next time I think they should do a better distribution. There were too many people in some polling booths, and there were very few in some. And so some people finish very early, and some people are finishing late. And you know there are no provisions for lights. So we have to get our lights now to be able to count, because everybody wants to know what the result is.
Okay. Well, that's the situation here at polling unit 007 in Area 2, Abuja.
Thank you so much, Chinaza Samuel, Arise News correspondent on the ground there. Well, the frontline presidential candidates speaking earlier to Arise News, and those men who are asking Nigerians to give them votes have themselves voted. We'll hear from some of them later in this broadcast. Charles.
Absolutely. But now to our analysts who've been keeping an eye on all the developments across Nigeria today. And to help us assess the day, we're joined now by the constitutional and human rights lawyer, Clement Wankwo, who's also the executive director of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center in Abuja and was the convener of the Civil Society Situation Room, which monitors Nigerian elections. And from our off-site studio, we're also joined by the policy strategist, Arise News analyst, and founder and executive director of Agora Policy, Waziri Adio. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And let me come to you first, Clement, just starting with the logistics of this. More than 87 million voters out there trying to vote, an enormous thing to get right in a country such as Nigeria. And predictably, it's gone wrong in several places. You yourself were not able to vote.
I still haven't been able to vote, and I am keeping an eye on what's going on. Voting is continuing.
Okay, my people, if you just join us, this is Gist 101 TV. I beg, if anything they happen for your area, I beg let us know so that we go touch light about them, so that other persons will be saying nothing about them, they go know about them. Did you see anything? Did you snap anything? I beg send to us so that we will push them, because this election matter to everybody, matter to even our born generation, because if we not get them right now, the next 4 years again are suffering. So I beg, if you see something or you hear something, I beg tell us in the comment section so that
is that a lot of polling units opened late. The information.
Okay, now my people, if you come back now, we'll go look about the situation report from waiting people they talk. People don't send, give us, about the election, some things will don't happen, so that we go read them for now, so that we're not going to know them, we're not going to know what they happen for each of the states. In fact, for the 33 states, including Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, we go bring on waiting actually happen, waiting people I see, waiting they talk and waiting they record. We go plug even now. So after this very news, I better not go away. Stay with us. Thank you very much. And this is Gist 101 TV.
Date. Logistics has always been an issue. Two things particularly, logistics, which means the preparations by INEC, and also collation. So we are going to the next stage, which is collation, and everyone is keeping an eye open for that. But that has also been a challenge with Nigeria's elections. And when you look at what is lying ahead, we've seen reports from across the country. There are concerns about voter suppression, about intimidation of voters. In some states, we've received an incredible number of reports from Lagos State. We've received lots of reports from Imo State, which has been a constant challenge for Nigeria's elections, and across several states of the country. In Kogi State, all of these are concerns that we all have. But you would expect that if we had an electoral act, a new one, made 2022, signed by the president. There was enough time for us to prepare for this. Dates for elections were announced, and INEC indicated preparedness. I think it's a huge disappointment.
Okay, my people, of people where they give, over time. And number one here, we just put it on sharp before we continue with the arise and stuff. This person, he's saying from Anambra, he said there was a police demonstration to show their readiness for the elections. It is not Anambra. I'm at Onitsha now, where I voted. Massive turnout, peaceful, and everything is and everybody is voting. Labour Party for president without apologies. No APC agents on ground and PDP agents are canvassing for Labour Party for president. PDP for Senate and Rep. My people, waited that a year now say even both APC members and PDP members for Anambra State that they vote for Labour Party for presidency and also for Rep and Senate that they vote their own respective party. But for presidency, they say now Peter Obi of Labour Party 91. We'll continue. We'll read more of the news when they come.
Care of. The thing to be seen is whether they got all the money that they should get at the time that they should get it. That is one. The second thing is that we should also not. By the way, they have all the time. Like Mr. Clement Nwankwo said. To plan and to get it right. So it's a bit puzzling that in some places, in most places, the officials didn't turn up on time. My own polling unit happens to be Gaines Village, also in the heart of Abuja here. The INEC officials didn't turn up until around 10 a.m. and voting is still going on there, by now. My own tally number was number 1,366, right? And of course, there was also rain, which also disrupted voting at some point. I've not voted up to now. But at the same time, we need to acknowledge that this is a huge logistic exercise. And most of these things are also out of the control of INEC. Most of the staff are ad hoc staff. The security is out of INEC's hand, and all of that. So. I think I've also seen an interim report by the CDD, situation room, and they said that the time as at 8:30, about more than 80% of the INEC officials across the country. So. Reported for duty, but there are also some places where you have figures like 10%, you have like 20% and all of that. So it's good to take it in, to have a holistic view and not use the outliers, to define the process. And of course, there are also provisions for what should be done when votings do not start on time, when voting does not start on time, and also when voting is disrupted. So. Let's see how it goes from here, and let's keep hope alive.
Right. Okay. Stay with us, Waziri. Let me come to you, Clement Nwankwo, because there were concerns. For instance, you mentioned Imo State in the southeast. We've heard of a number of other incidents across there. There were concerns that people in the southeast might not come out to vote because of the threat of intimidation. What's your assessment of the turnout in that region? You've got your sort of contacts and observers across Nigeria.
I'm surprised with the reports that we're getting from the southeast. People were out as early as 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. The queues were long. People were waiting. We got a report this evening in the situation room of people who had been out at 6:30 a.m. this morning.
Okay, my people, make we dive enter China's TV, make we hear what they happen, waiting at the territory for them. After that, we'll come back to China's, we'll come back to Arise TV so that we touch light more about what we talk about.
Make communication, it has to do through via the help of their mobile phone. To what centers? I had also expected that maybe mobile surveillance vehicle will be to the aid of these informations, or given the BVAS machine that INEC has just introduced, it should have a security button whereby if there are issues, the ad hoc staff can just, with the activation of a security button, it should hit a common security control center in order to alert them to come for rescue. But maybe that will be for another day. It still boils down to if these security agencies, maybe from behavioral psychological lens, maybe some of them goes back to relax or decide not to be found there, one thing, but it still takes these politicians to determine who becomes CP and IG tomorrow, so they wouldn't want to play into their hands.
Now, given the figures that you have, information at your disposal, what would be your assessment generally? And then perhaps speak to maybe some specific zones of the country, given the information that is available to you. What would be your assessment generally about our performance as a people in terms of security?
Okay, in terms of security, the foundation was previously laid during the campaign period. So you could understand, you would agree with me that during the course of the campaign, we had a little violence against what the nation experienced in 2011, 2015, and also 2019. So information became very, very critical. Okay, so we can say that instead of having conventional violence, we now have more what we call social media bullies. So the violence that would have happened conventionally, we are more felt via the social media, where people disseminate misinformations. Like I got a couple of informations today coming from the southeast that unknown gunmen were preventing them from voting in some locations in Enugu, Imo, and Anambra. I just made inquiry, okay, can you send me videos? Can you send me audios and things like that? Then across the northeast, yes, it is expected, because we also circled certain areas that there are likelihood of violence in those areas. So it's one of what we got here. But again, south, as we saw in Warri, and if we are to link what happened during the cash scarcity, okay, whereby a lot of financial institutions also suffered hardship, you would also admit that the fact that there is no availability of cash to pay these thugs also reduced the violence. Then the ones who are already exhibiting violence already, it works in two ways. Either they are sympathetic to a certain standard bearer or candidate, and they will go back later to play the card of the event of what happened in order to cash out, or they were already contracted to do what they did in order to make sure that they scare voters and there is voter party and what have you. But overall, violence has drastically reduced as compared with what used to be the past. But the security agencies really have a lot to do. The police being the lead security agency, and the military assured them, yes, we'll give you that backup tactically you need. So that's why we are able, they were able to take charge of the southeast, particularly in Imo State. And we also need to commend the efforts of the IG, because personally I was very scared of Imo State based on the reports we were getting before today. But the fact that the IG used his wisdom to deploy 3 commissioners of police across the 3 senatorial zone, in addition to the command CP, that also helped to make sure that security is heightened up. But communication is very key, because in terms of emergency, seamless communication is not there.
Well, there are countless questions to ask you, Mr. Uzoma, but unfortunately we have to let you go at this time.
Point, yeah.
Hopefully we'll bring you back to give us some more perspectives. Kingsley Uzoma is an election security management consultant. Thank you again for your time this morning. I beg your pardon.
Intimidation, where people, by reason of geographical location may have been targeted to frustrate their voting. That's been a major situation in Lagos, and we think it's a major issue for INEC to take very seriously to allow people to vote. There has been reports as well of some of the service providers for INEC who have delayed or not succeeded in supporting the ferrying or the delivery of election materials to specific areas. So all of these issues of vote suppression and intimidation are issues of concern for us.
And Charles, I think we do have Jemima Boloko. We now have,
okay.
We can use the technology to cross over to Asaba, Delta State Capital.
I like that.
Jemima, good to have you join the show. What's happening in Asaba, the Delta State Capital, at this moment? Jemima, if you can hear us, what's happening where you are? Has voting ended?
Okay, hello everyone. This is Asaba, the Delta State Capital in Oshibili South. So far so good. The process has been peaceful aside from the disturbance of the rain. Back and forth, it has been a peaceful process here in Oshibili South. If you look right behind me, people are trying to still vote due to the disturbance of the rain, like I said earlier. And earlier, around 9:45 a.m. in Ika North, where the vice presidential candidate of the PDP voted, he praised the electoral process for also a seamless and peaceful process. And also earlier we were in Anambra State, where the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, voted, and he also commended the electoral process for a seamless and flawless process as well. Back to you.
And good to see you, Jemima. Let me ask you this. I mean, we're hearing that turnout in many places was unusually high, particularly among young people. What did you observe about that?
Yeah, the turnout in Ika North earlier on, when we visited the governor's polling unit, the turnout was very high. Also, the turnout in Oshimili South around there was very high. But we're yet to get information from central of Delta State and the south of Delta State for more information on the turnout. We'll follow up as time goes on. Back to you, Charles.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Jemima, correspondent, and she was talking to us there from the Delta State Capital, Asaba. So we've got Clement Wan here, Waziri Adio. Clement, I suppose you could say that this is a day that you could say that things kicked off a bit late, you know, with INEC gently easing into the voting process, to put it politely.
Well, with INEC, I don't know about gently easing, but INEC getting the starts in most areas. Indeed, when you have elections start very late, some of the voting started around 5 p.m. It means that you're going to have voting go deeper into the night. And I'm talking even of Abuja. Now, when this happens in more remote areas and more remote states and rural communities where electricity is absent and where insecurity reigns, then it's going to be a challenge how you would manage the voting materials, the ballot papers, the ballot boxes, even the individuals who are involved in the elections, how you'd manage the issue of security surrounding the individuals and the materials. And I think for us who are watching how this collation would happen, this is some sort of trepidation for us. Also looking at the fact that in some cases, INEC has already announced that it may postpone voting into Sunday. It's a question where if people have not finished voting, half the people on a voter's roll have voted, how do you manage the other half or the other population that haven't voted? in the period. So all of these are challenges that is of worry at this time.
Well, I'm told that you've got to trot off, Clement, because I expect that you're still trying to, being the person that you are, making efforts to ensure that you do vote, although I suspect that you probably won't get to do it today. Is that something you think might still happen?
I am determined to vote, and I did go to that polling unit about an hour, 2 hours ago, and for me it was amazing to see people in that rain determined not to move an inch because of the weather conditions. They were determined to vote. I am determined to vote, and if I don't vote, it would be an issue for INEC to consider ensuring that all those who are not able to vote have the opportunity to vote, even if it means postponing to the next day.
Okay, Clement, for the moment then, thank you very much indeed. Clement Nwankwo is the Constitutional and Human Rights Lawyer. He's also the Executive Director of the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center in Abuja, and he was the convener of the Civil Society Situation Room, which monitors Nigerian elections. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And you're watching special coverage of Nigeria's 2023 presidential election here.
To power in terms of understanding what is going on inside the government, may not know sometimes how dangerous things are at any particular point in time in managing a transition from one point to the other. We have an election today. It wasn't all, smoochy and everything without challenges. And we had it the other time too. My expectation
in the state, as you know, that Kaduna has, some persons would have regarded Kaduna as a flashpoint, and some other northern parts, some other northern states. But interestingly, it seems that most of the electoral violence, cases of electoral violence that we have had so far are not coming from the north, they're coming from the southern part of the country. And so in your own earlier words spoken with the governor, and he said that electoral violence was recorded in about two local government, Soba local government and southern Kaduna. And so these were the places where electoral violence was recorded. But of course, that would not deface or
the INEC electoral secretary didn't also confirm that. He failed to confirm it. He said, according to them, the process was smooth, and according to them, the little hitches they had were due to.
That's a funny part.
He actually said the hitches they had were due to some of the ad hoc staff who weren't trained enough. So
they were trained, but then they didn't get the training right.
They didn't get the training right.
So it wasn't like the beavers had an issue. It was the ad hoc staff that didn't learn how to use the beavers right. That they had trained them. They had given them maximum training as to how to use the beavers. But the ad hoc staff didn't know how to use it. So at some point, some journalists actually told me that they were actually telling some ad hoc staff how to use the beavers correctly. That's to use either the facial recognition or the thumbprint. Some persons didn't know. So it caused a bit of delay during the election, and unfortunately that it came so late. We understand that as at 8:30 a.m. a lot of INEC ad hoc staff were still at the local government trying to get their materials sorted. And we also spoke with the administrative secretary, who is doubling as the resident electoral commissioner here in Kaduna State, and he said that it's not the fault of INEC, that the ad hoc staff did not sleep at the rack centers, and so they came in this morning to pick up their materials while the supervisors were waiting for them. So that was what caused the delay here in Kaduna State. Back to Yuri.
Yeah, that's good to know, because when we were speaking in the morning, it was all a sort of a deserted place, and you had observed at the time that, well, people would just come, people around say, well, nothing is happening here, go back again, and that's where we had to leave you. But now we sort of have an explanation for what was happening. It wasn't that the INEC people were, twiddling their thumbs or anything like that. You've just given us the explanation. Okay, then. Well, thank you, Sarah, Lupe. a quite comprehensive wrap-up. Thank you very much.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that was a very good one from those guys there. And light is fast failing, but these guys, they're going to do whatever it takes. The same thing with Ayodele. Light was failing. I guess the people that will be feeling desperate will be those that don't have lights with them. But those teams are very well kitted. The one thing that's coming through, Kyle, is that people are invested in this system. It just occurs to me, ever since Ashwaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu mentioned the matter of he got faith in the system, he said he will take it. Now, even those ordinary people have faith in this system.
Yes.
So even when there was trauma, once they saw that they were rescued from the trauma, they came back and stood their ground again. And this is very important. You were talking about the development of democracy, the things needed. And
so we have made some progress. And interestingly so, I'm happy about it. People now know that votes count. The next stage is to not let them know that democracy does not end after voting. That is the logic of creating House of Assembly, senators and other members who will be the overwatch on the executive. And then the people at the grassroots are supposed to be their own watch too. Right. So it's a system of policing the police that polices the police. People need to understand democracy from that context, that it is that aspect of eternal vigilance that is more important. And I emphasize much more important than just putting leaders there. So when you vote the right president, ensure that the right people get into the parliament. That's right. So that you can hold them accountable and say, is that what we send you to do? If it is not, then we're going to recall you. That is where we have not made much progress. And I was talking
maybe
about
that's the next step.
The next step we have to. That's where
holding our leaders accountable. Look, it's not. You don't become royalty. You don't become royalty as a result of having been elected.
It's not a case
you still are accountable. One, to those overseas site functions, oversight functions, and then to the people ultimately. Definitely. Because even as you were just explaining, a watcher can be watched as well. Even the National Assembly that's supposed to be watching over the executive, they themselves are watched over by the people.
That's it.
And so they can be recalled.
It's a tripartite system.
Yes. But when we get to that stage, it'll be a happy day when we actually get to that stage. I don't think it has happened so far in our political history.
It has not happened.
Political commentators have been bemoaning that fact that some people really deserve to have been recalled. But it hasn't happened yet.
But someday it will happen. Now, when people remember what they passed through, come rain, come sunshine, come insecurity, shooting of guns everywhere, and they were able to still vote, I think they will be more serious this time. So it's a kind of wuru to a particular extent. But I think we should also charge certain institutions of the government that are created to ensure that these issues come on board, especially the National Orientation Agency. Okay? I mean, if I ask you who is the executive director or director, you probably would not know. And I don't think my kids at home or my students in the class will know. But that is one of the most important, institutions.
What do you think has happened? INEC, for instance, is up and doing good. That orientation agency is been marked mostly by the silence.
Whereas that's the responsibility of educating Nigerians on why they must vote, who they should vote for, and voting without traces of ethnicity, religion, bitterness, and rancor. I think one of the things we'll do is set agenda for whoever becomes the president to activate that section of the society.
It's just kind of litany of narratives around the process that will determine how people will react. Now, it is for Nigerians to know that, so that takes me to before we had the election. You go to many places and they say, oh, this election is a verdict on Nigeria. No, it's not a verdict on Nigeria. It's part of our journey towards having a proper country, a proper democracy. If you say it's a verdict on Nigeria, does that mean that if everybody says if it doesn't go my way, because that's the situation with the politicians, if it doesn't go my way, then it's flawed, and then I'm not going to accept it. Does that then mean that the country will break up?
I guess what you're essentially saying is the jury is still out, and we should only be patient.
Yes, indeed.
We could continue on another.
I'm going to give DIG about 1 minute to wrap up this segment. So going forward now, because now we are at the stage of collation, we are hearing results from polling units, but then there's still the provision that those results, having been announced and put on all the various portals and everywhere, they still have to be manually and physically transported to Abuja for the final announcement. As the security people are listening now, in 1 minute, what should they do to ensure that that process retains the integrity? Because that's where people are afraid. The proper thing to do would have been that the police
clear to get a better sense of what's going on across Nigeria. Let's go over to Inaugural, the capital of Bayelsa State, where Arise correspondent Ovieteme George is standing by to give us an update. Good to see you, Ovieteme. Just tell us what information you've collected so far about how this election has been going on in Bayelsa State, where you are.
Thank you, Charles Aniagolu, and of course, Adesua More. Okay, the situation right now is that some persons in some communities have not been able to perform their civic duty due to the late arrival of materials. You know, Bayelsa is a bit complex, a state that is arguably 70% water, so you have to go through the creeks, the rivulets and the hinterlands to deliver materials. And of course, security has always been a major concern. But that was not the only situation. Even in the upland, Yenagoa local government area, Kolokmapokuma, materials arrived late. Earlier on, I saw Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, Nigeria's former president, cast his ballot quite late, and he made this observation about materials coming in late. But this is the latest development. 4 wards in Yenagoa local government area, voting could not take place. It has been postponed, actually. Now, Bayelsa may be in the news for all the wrong reasons at this point in time, but a bit of good news is that 40 out of the 141 polling units, the materials are intact, and so elections will take place in 40 units in Yenagoa local government area tomorrow, that is Sunday. Now, what was actually the problem? It was observed that there were shortfalls in the ballot papers and other materials for the House of Representatives election. And that was where political parties had dissenting voices, and they were actually protesting that it will not go on. And that, by extension, affected the presidential election and also the senatorial election. If you say senatorial election, you're talking about Bayelsa Central Senatorial District, comprising Yenagoa, Southern Ijo, and Kolokmapokuma local government areas. So that's the situation here. Wards 4, 6, 8, and 14 were affected, but 40 polling units will witness election tomorrow. What about the 101 left? That is left for the Independent National Electoral Commission to give an update. Charles?
Indeed, Obietime, I thought I had the INEC chairman say today that 141 polling units would be having elections tomorrow. He said the polls were disrupted. But bring us up to speed, because he did make a point about materials being recovered and, you know, the election being rescheduled to take place today initially.
Every day brings memory.
At the age of voting, are the ones that we have focused quite a great deal of attention on in this election, because they are the ones that all indications indicate that they'll make a difference.
Security has been top-notch, beefed up. On my way to Ogbea, first to Otueke, where the former president cast his ballot, and all the way to Opume. You will see policemen and soldiers. You must identify yourself before you go beyond that temporary barricade. As you're going up front, you're seeing more and more. So far, it has been peaceful, but I haven't seen a security situation like this before in an election taking place in Bayelsa State. So it's been fantastic, I must say. Now, you talk about ad hoc staff expressing concern about safety, security, and they wouldn't go on, I would say that was very true. Now look behind me. You see a lot of ad hoc staff. They are here. This is the Opolo Town Hall, which is the collation center in Inaugural local government area. They are all waiting. So some are still not here yet, I understand, from Kolokuma local government area. So you see, there's a lot of problem in terms of logistics. Yes, the Independent National Electoral Commission may beat its chest and say, we are trying, but there's still more left to be done about safety, about security, and about getting it right. Imagine talking about ballot papers for House of Representatives being one of the reasons for the postponement in Inaugural local government area. Is that good enough? Adeswa? I don't think so.
I don't think so as well.
Well, absolutely. And Obiateme George, for the moment, thank you very much.
Some instances where polling